Hey, 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 good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday. It is just another mental Monday with Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine. We are going live, taking center stage on the Own It platform with Own It Publishing. And today we have a very special guest. We are going to get into some brain health talk today, y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my special guest on in. Hello, hello. Good morning, Miss ShonSpeaks. How are you,
Hello.
honey?
I'm glad to be here. Hey, Tiffany.
Oh my goodness, I am glad to have your energy in the room. Look, y'all, LaShawn is one of our contributing writers with Phoenix Fitness Fanatics as well. So, gotta always plug that, especially for our amazing contributing writers that are just, putting in work to give you guys some excellent content on how to stay healthy when it comes to physically, mentally, spiritually, as well as being financially fit. So, let's get into this brain health talk. So
Yes.
you wear many hats, honey. So I mean,
I
you're a
do.
lawyer, you're a licensed brain health coach, you're a speaker. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so
Listen,
much more. I mean, I think we end up having to take a few off because there's just so many. So just tell me, what got you into starting into this brain health, whole thing? What got you in that arena?
well, you know what? What got me into that arena is my own brain health. I would have
Mm.
to say that I've been into learning about neuroscience for a couple of years,
Okay.
right? But I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really make the connection with neuroscience and brain health. At least
Mhm.
not I wasn't aware that I had made that connection, right?
Yeah.
But when you are having your own set of emotional issues
Mhm.
and your own set of, challenges in your own mental health, and you start to want to seek answers, not not quick fixes, right? But actual solutions, actual resolution, answers to whatever's going on in your own life, in your
Yeah.
own sort of mental psyche. And I think for
Mhm.
me, that's kind of what happened with me. I had already kind of suffered from a little bit of depression here and there. But I kind of about a year ago, I started to really notice that I was on a cycle, right?
Mhm.
And if I was now, when I got objective with my own life and sort of kind of did a look back over my life, I realized that that cycle came up and I was on it over and over and over again. Now, it was different in different ways, right?
Yeah.
May not have been the same face, may not have been the same exact situation, but it
Mhm.
was a cycle that literally had the same ingredients, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I noticed that, of course, it was me showing up in all of those cycles, right? All of those cycles. So last year, it really just sort of, I was like, wait a minute, stop. I was willing to just say, stop, Sean.
Yeah.
Something's happening that it's almost like you can't control this,
Mhm.
right? It's like it's out of your control.
Yeah.
And I went on a mission, right? And I guess because I had sort of that neuroscience desire, I sort of went on a mission that says, okay, it's like this. When you are sick, if you have heart issues,
Mhm.
right? You go to a cardiologist, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to want to take a look at your heart,
Right.
right? If you have, kidney issues, you're not using the bathroom, they're going to want to take a look at your kidney, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But when I decided, hey, I wanted to really, have some conversations about what was going on with me mentally, it was a quick conversation and a prescription.
Oh,
But I
wow.
didn't, but I knew I had done that before.
Yeah.
I had done that before. And I'm not, first of all, I am a lawyer by trade, on license. Only advice I can officially give you is legal advice. So I'm gonna always like to throw that out, right?
Yeah.
But I had done that before. And I was like, okay, that's not, I know I can take an SSRI. I know I can take a antidepressant. I know I can take that. All right. And I know I'm not going to want to take it for very long because I don't necessarily want the side effects of it. Right.
Right.
But that wasn't, I didn't want a quick,
Right.
like a band-aid over it. I
Yeah.
really wanted to know, Sean, why is it you're almost a 50-year-old girl, a fit girl, but you're
Okay.
cycling the same
Right.
cycle?
Mhm.
Where's the growth? Where is the, you make a decision, you go another path. Where is that? Right.
Mhm.
And so that started me sort of on, I got introduced to Dr. Daniel Amen
Okay.
at the Amen clinics. And it changed my life. And I didn't just want to meet with somebody for 10 minutes and them write me a prescription. I really wanted to go under the hood. So
Yeah.
just like you would go and figure out why is your heart beating so fast or whatever the issues you may have, I
Yeah.
wanted to go into the place of what's going on in my brain, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
the brain is basically controlling every decision in your life. But
Right.
yet, it's the very place none of us ever actually look.
Wow. Wow. And that is so crazy because, you know, like for myself in my journey, they told me, okay, your sugar's high, this, that, and the other, right? So I went, and instead of having them put me on medication, which they wanted me to, I ate right, I exercised, I got balanced that way, and it's when it comes to mental health, and the brain health, you're so right. When you're having issues of depression, when you're having issues of anxiety, you go to the doctor, and the first thing they do is here, here, take this. And yeah, maybe in a couple of days, you're going to feel up, you're going to feel good. But like you said, it's like putting a band-aid on it. I mean, that stuff underneath there that needs to heal and needs to really be addressed is not being addressed
And you need
because
to
we're just kind of
understand yourself.
masked, right?
Yeah. Well, because you don't understand yourself. They get it,
Yeah.
it. I'll give you an example. This was a
Mhm.
long time ago. I had gotten put on, long time ago, I had gotten put on some antidepressants.
Mhm.
And I ain't gonna lie, they worked.
Mhm.
They did exactly what they were supposed to
They
do.
say, right.
I
Mhm.
suffer from high highs and low lows, and I was on a high binge, and I had dropped low, and I couldn't get myself back up out of it.
Yeah.
Got on the antidepressants, and it numbed me out. It did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Right.
The problem
Mhm.
was it numbed me out. Right.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
it did what it was supposed to do, but it did what it's supposed to do. And so um, I was on it for a while, good little bit, and I
Mhm.
said, "No, Sean, I don't want to be numbed out. I actually
Right.
want to feel how high. I want to feel the highs, and I want to
Yeah.
feel the lows. I just don't want to be knocked. I don't want to be numb to my life, right?"
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so I remember now. I would never recommend doing this, but I literally went cold turkey. Now you're never supposed to go if you are on antidepressants or any kind of medicine. You are never to
Yeah.
go cold turkey. You're supposed to zone down on
Right.
it. But I went cold turkey. That just kind of show you how person I am. I went cold
Yeah.
turkey, and then I was having literal withdrawals, right? Because it's like a drug.
Mhm.
It's like being
It
taken off
is.
of a drug.
Right.
And I remember when I finally was able to get back into the doctor, and I was telling her, I said, "Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous." I was telling her what happened. She was like, "LaShawn, you were not supposed to just stop taking. If you were ready to get off the medicine, I could have, reduced the amount until to get you off." And I
Yeah.
was like, "No, I was tired. I wanted to feel. I wanted to
Right. Yeah, I want to
feel."
feel right away,
I
right?
wanted to feel,
Yeah.
and I wanted to feel right away. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I mean, but that is
Mhm.
so it's kind of like that smorgasbord and a whole lot of other stuff that we don't have enough time to talk. That I have to come in a book one day.
Next segment.
Yeah, but that's pretty much kind of how I ended up kind of getting on this brain health journey.
Yeah. Wow. So, what made you want to step out and start to coach and become a licensed brain health coach? I mean, because now you're getting a little deep into other people and their psyche, right?
You know,
So, what made you want to get into that?
you know what's funny, Tiffany, on that one? Now that I look back over my life, I think I've always been a coach.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, right? And then as a lawyer, I've always
Mhm.
been a counselor, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The type of lawyer that I am is I do a smorgasbord of law, right? So I
Mhm.
deal with bankruptcy, I deal with divorce, I deal with custody battle, I deal with when people die, probate. And so I
Mhm.
always and I've been practicing for over 20 years. So I realized that I've always dealt with people at their lowest. right?
Yeah.
And despite them being at their lowest, I knew how to talk with them. I knew how to get them to see life from a different perspective, right? And even at the time, I wouldn't have never called myself a coach. I would have called myself a counselor, because that's what us lawyers call ourselves, lawyer,
Right.
counselor. But I've always been able to counsel people at their darkest times in their lives, right? You know, they could be upon financial ruin, and I'm helping them map out their new future, right? As they're filling out the bankruptcy paperwork, they're buying their next house. I'm all right. Oh, you're going to be buying your next house. This is going to help you.
Right.
You know, they're going through this tumultuous divorce, and they thinking they're never going to love again. And I'm like, oh, you're going to love again. I guarantee you're going to love again, right?
Right.
And I think over the years, I developed sort of a knack for being able to help people navigate themselves out of their own life situations by one, taking responsibility, whatever that may be, whether it's you used up credit cards and you shouldn't have, or whether life just happened to you and you lost your job and it just was a bad situation, or you
Mhm.
chose the
Mhm.
wrong person and you married bad, right? Sometimes you marry bad. That's just the truth. And
Right.
sometimes you marry good and it changes, right?
Right.
And sometimes you just got to be able to redirect yourself. Well, guess
Mhm.
what's helping you redirect yourself? But if your brain is on a cycle, and the cycle is getting you nowhere, and that's what's controlling your decisions, you're going to be making a bunch of decisions that get you nowhere, right? And
Right.
so I think with all of that, with that background, it was just a perfect timing.
Yeah.
That's why I always tell people, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you consider it to be good or bad, and if you know me, I don't get caught up in labels. You could ask me something and I'll say it's good today, and tomorrow I'll tell you it's bad, because I try to look at things both ways. But
Right.
whether you think something is good or bad, it's really just maybe. You don't really know, right?
Mhm.
Whether something is good or bad or whatever. Everything is usable. I call it's usable data. It's
Mhm.
useful in the construction of what I'm trying to build for my life, what I'm trying to have for my life, who I'm trying to be in my life. That's what it
Mhm.
is, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of it, and because of that, it's like it merged perfectly with me having this sort of. I went through this drop last year emotionally, and then got introduced to Dr. Daniel Amen, studied underneath him. And it was just a perfect smorgasbord. And it made me realize that, okay, if I am going through what I'm going through, and I'm just making some awarenesses about some things that I wasn't even aware of,
Yeah.
it could be that other people could connect, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that's the journey that I'm on. My journey is I am just sharing with you, with whoever will listen, my journey of understanding what's going on in my brain, in hopes that that would encourage you to want to know what's going on in your brain, and be able to identify it in very clear terms so that you can address it.
So, what's a misconception about brain health that can hurt people versus help people?
Not realizing that the brain plays an intricate part in every decision of your life. Um, the biggest misconception that I would say in my life is that I didn't realize how important the brain was,
Mhm.
right? I didn't realize that if I was in, a successive of, let's say, three bad relationships, that it was my brain that got me into those three bad relationships. If I was, was having more month than I had money every month, that was my brain playing a part in me overspending. It was my brain playing a part in me having, arguments with my
Right.
family or my friends or my loved ones. It was my brain playing a part in everything that I was complaining about, right? If I woke up complaining about, oh, I hate my job, or oh, I hate my career, or oh, I hate what
Right.
I'm doing, that was my brain, right? And so the misconception I think that many of us have is that we don't understand just how important the brain is, and just how intricately connected the brain is to everything that we do, right? And
Right.
so when you look around in life and you look around at other people and you're like, why do they get this and why do they have that? And okay, then that means that there's something about your brain,
Right.
right? that's not connecting with what it is that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because the
Mm-hmm.
moment your brain connects to your wants, it's no longer going to be a want anymore, because your
Right.
brain is going to start helping you make decisions to make that want manifest in your life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that we don't, the misconception is that on one hand, we know it's important, because if you have an accident and somebody have a big brain injury or cutting the head or
Right.
something, that we like, oh, that's serious. But you can have brain injury, Tiffany, from a car accident. You can have brain injury from, falling off a ladder,
Right.
from hitting your head on the wall, from tripping
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
falling, right? You can have a brain injury. And when
From
I was,
sports, right? Even from playing sports. From
oh,
playing
you
sports. You
definitely
know?
have a brain injury from playing sports. Um, One of the things for me was, when my daughter was first born, we were in a car accident,
Mm-hmm.
and I got thrown out of the car the truck that I was in flipped over,
Oh
and
my
I had
God.
literally just taken my daughter out of her car seat to breastfeed, because I was breastfeeding her at the time. And right when I had taken her out, put her on my breast and was breastfeeding her, someone had swerved. We were in a truck. The truck flipped over. I wasn't in a car seat because I had literally just taken her out of her car seat and I hadn't put the car
Okay.
seat back on. And I got thrown out of the back window.
Oh my gosh.
And literally, I don't know if I bust through the window, if the window had already bust, but I got thrown out of the back window, landed on like this open clearing. My daughter was laid out on a blanket. It was literally as if somebody had laid the blanket and laid her there. And then I was
Wow.
laying next to her. I could not move, but I
Mm.
could look a little bit and see that she was fine, but I couldn't move. But because my head wasn't bleeding or whatever. Now I think they did do a CT scan of my brain, but it was didn't show anything structurally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing was broken was my shoulder bone, and so they focus all of the attention, on the shoulder
Yeah.
bone, never
Right.
really focusing on the fact that, hey, I had trauma that occurred to my brain,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But because of the way Dr. Daniel Amen like to say it, is that you had a lot of brain reserve. The reason why you're functioning and you still, what some people would consider a high functioning person, is because you came to that accident with high brain reserve, with a lot of brain reserve. So your brain, your neurotransmitters were able to reconnect and make new connections, and engage in that what we call neuroplasticity,
Mm-hmm.
so that what would have probably shut somebody else down didn't
Yeah.
shut you down. If I was to show you, and one of these days I plan on doing a reel, I just got to crunch it into 1 minute, right? These 1
Yeah.
minute reels. But I have a brain scan of my own brain to my share. Anytime you see a reel of mine and you see a brain scan, it's my brain. But one of my brain scans, when you see it, it literally looks like I have a hole in my head, right? Now, literally, I don't have a hole in my head because, of course, the
Yeah.
brain itself is the consistency of butter. But what it
Mm-hmm.
does show is that I have very little blood flow to certain area of my brain, and
Mm-hmm.
my doctors think that it's connected to that accident, that major accident that occurred a long, long time ago. And
Right.
so you can have and it can, in the consequences of something like experiencing something like that, is you can have an accident, and then all of a sudden within a year, 2 years, somebody's emotional show up changes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody ever really makes the connection that it could be related to that trauma,
Right.
right?
Right.
To that head injury or something like that. And so, but yeah.
That is so interesting. Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad that you guys are okay. But all I gotta say, that was nothing but God putting that blanket down and just laying him down, laying her down, right? Like, oh my gosh, you just gave me the chills.
Just
Whew.
laid out. Just laid out.
Oh. So, what are some lifestyle changes that people can make to contribute to better brain health?
One thing is, a lot of people don't realize that when you suffer from depression, it's an indication that you have inflammation in your body, right? And so, so of course, eating right is always, that, our bodies are nothing but the food that we eat, right? It's the
That's
makeup of the
right.
food that we eat. So definitely eating right, but it's not eating right one for all, right? So an eating right for me, it's going to be very different from an eating right for you.
Mhm.
And so, but eating for your brain health, eating, foods that are good for your brain health, good fruits and vegetables, lean meats, you know, uh, not, I'm one of these things. I am not a type of person that tell people what not to do. I actually
Mhm.
think we live in this world, have all of the experiences that you want to have.
Mhm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean you got to go crazy, right?
Yeah.
Everybody know me. I love a good glass of Malbec. I do, right? But you got to curb your alcohol intake,
Mhm.
right? You got to curb your smoking, right? And so, and I'm not against smoking. Me and my husband own co-own a cigar membership bar. So I'm not against that, but you still have to curb it because those things have direct, especially smoking, have a direct impact on your brain health, right? Especially if you're not doing something else to really increase or maintain your brain health. That's the reason why, brain health and making sure you're putting forth food and right things into your body to
Mhm.
preserve and increase that brain reserve if you're engaging in things like alcohol and
Yeah.
smoking and those types of things. And
Mhm.
exercise, right? Now, I'm not talking about super, super strenuous exercise. You don't have to go and, and be, Schwarzenegger or anything like that.
Right.
But taking a walk every day, that helps you. One of the things that I found out in my own brain health journey was I've always been one that would run and go exercise, et cetera, and really can't really function without it.
Yeah.
Never realizing that was my body's way of giving my brain what it needed,
Mm.
right? It was
Yeah.
giving my brain that serotonin that I was really not getting enough of, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so exercise. Um, Another lifestyle change I think people can do is just don't get too don't get too stuck in things having to be one particular way.
Mhm.
Be more flexible
Yeah.
in how you see and perceive life, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think if you can start to do that, that increases your brain health because it challenges whatever that pattern that your brain may have about something, right?
Right. Right.
And so, yeah. So,
Wow. I mean, it is it's so crazy like that you even said just go out and walk, get out in nature, right? I know when I
mhm.
get out in nature, it's like a natural high,
Yeah,
it really is
feeling.
just getting out of the house.
Yeah. But I always like you have to think about it like this. The shelter is something that we created to separate ourselves from nature. But our
Mm,
truest self is there's no separation. And so a lot of
wow.
times when we become sort of, house and couch potatoes, right? You are literally detaching yourself from who you are.
Yeah.
So when you get out and you take that walk and you feel that sunshine, that vitamin D, and you feel all of that, right? It's rejuvenating you. It's like
Yeah.
a power source to your being,
Mhm.
right? It
Mhm.
lights you back up. It gives
That's
you back
right.
that energy that you need to sort of continue to live. So getting out the house, that's why I say it's not about a strenuous exercise. It's just about
Right.
movement and reconnection, right?
Yeah.
The sun is your friend. I'm not saying stay
Right.
out in there for hours or whatever, but the sun is your friend.
Yeah.
You need vitamin D. You need that sun. You need nature. You need to smell the
Right.
trees. The trees are a friend. Just like the trees give to us,
That's
we give to
yes,
we give to the trees. And
we
so
do.
I think sometimes because we're so intelligent beings, but we forget that take away the things that our intelligence can create
Yeah.
and understand that we are no different than the flower, the tree, the
Right.
dirt, right? There's a there, that's all a part of us too, and we're a part of it. So let's not separate ourselves, because you'd be very surprised. Sometimes I can go for a walk or a run, and some of my best ideas, right? I'll
That's
be
right.
running and I'll be typing at the same time and writing up something, right? Or I could be, I could have an issue at work and my main job, and the answer be like, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll do that, right?
Right.
And it'll come in me being in nature.
Yeah, yeah. Because it gives us all those feel good hormones to start pumping, and it's so interesting with the whole vitamin D thing, right? Because when you go to the doctors and you get your blood work done, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna tell you that you're vitamin D deficient. You're gonna
Yeah,
have to, take that supplement because we don't get out enough. We
exactly.
don't. And
We
we
don't.
are connected to that. I mean, when you're a hermit, that's when the depression hits. I know when I stay inside for too long,
Mm-hmm.
I get angry.
Yeah,
Okay. It's like, I gotta get out, And yeah, and it's just so interesting how that is just all so connected,
it's very connected because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of when you gain a lot of weight, it can be because you're not going outside enough, right? And so you're not producing enough of the hormone that will tell your body that you're full, right? It's also connected, right? We're just, a small. I love. I don't know why I like to say this word smorgasbord, but we're just a smorgasbord of chemicals, right?
Yeah.
When we think something, chemicals release. When we say something, chemicals release, and it's basically you're basically making sort of like a pot. A pot of chemical reactions, right?
Right.
And if you want to have a change in life, change what's going in that pot, right? Go outside so that you can release those particular hormones that need to be released so that you can now be able to tell that second plate no, or that second piece of cake no. I'm not saying don't have. I have like a piece of cake. I love me whatever like I love. I don't really say deny myself of anything.
Right. You can't deny yourself.
You can't deny yourself because then you're just gonna have more of it, right?
That's
But
right.
I can't say, you know what, one's enough or two is enough, right?
That's right.
And so, we are nature. Nature is us.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your reels, you end with the phrase brain health is mental wealth. So what is that mental wealth?
That mental wealth is the source of everything that you want to do in life, whoever you want to be in life, whatever you want to have in life, right? When you have that mental wealth, there's no saying I don't have what I need to get what I want, right? When you have the mental wealth, you have everything that you need to get what you want, and you're gonna now use it, right? A lot of times for us, especially, we find ourselves, I always like to say, on these patterns, on these cycles of complaint, and we think things are sort of beyond our grasp, beyond what we can have, etc. And it's because I think we lack that mental wealth, because the game that we're playing in our minds don't align with the life that we want to have. And we don't recognize that disconnect because we're living in a insufficiency or in a deficiency. When you have that mental wealth, right, then you realize that you're operating from a state of abundance. You operate mentally from a state of abundance. You have the wealth of everything you need starts here, right? And so when you have the wealth of everything you need starts here, then when something happens in your life, and it could be something that maybe takes you off a little bit, it's like, wait a minute, I know how to respond to that. And if I don't, I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to figure out how to respond to that. Because I say, when you're living in what I call the allowance mode, everything becomes usable when you have the mental wealth. Everything, good, bad, ugly, is usable, right? I took a bad situation that occurred a year ago and I made it usable. It could have broken me down.
Right.
It could have shut me down
Completely.
Right? And I thought that it was. I really did. Right?
Yeah.
Right? But I live in allowance mode. Right? And I'm increasing my mental wealth. So now it's like, okay, I can make that usable. Right? I can turn it. I can change it. I can create magic. Right?
That's
Mental
right.
wealth is that magic. Right? It's that ability to take anything and create a beautiful story.
Yeah. See that, and that's where that manifestation comes from. You said that, when you that that's some good stuff. That mental wealth, just knowing how to, I mean, if you're in a relationship and you get to the end of that relationship, now I know I've had my heart broken many a times, but it it made me ready, and now it's like when I look at the time, I wasn't looking at it that way. It was the end of the world, but it was supposed to happen. And if you look at that right away and no, you know what? Maybe that happened because I'm not supposed to move that way. Let me just be kind of still for a minute. Let me just take a moment.
That's
And then
it.
all of a sudden you take that moment, and just visualize it happening, right?
Yeah.
You visualizing it happening. It don't have to happen that way now, but it's already happening. And then all of a sudden it happens a completely different way. Something comes like out of left field, and you're like, oh, that's why it didn't happen that way, because that was
Exactly.
gonna block me, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Or it was going to have you stuck in a
Yeah.
story that was going to narrow the trajectory of where you could go. Right? Because
Right.
it's only the story of what that particular relationship or that job or whatever that situation may be. It was only
Right.
the story that you told yourself about it, about that person or about that job or about that situation. Right.
Yeah.
So when that story changed, whether it's changed on that person's end or changed on your end or that job let you
Mhm.
go, right? All you
Right.
have to do is say to yourself, okay, so the story that I had for myself about this, it may not play out the way that I thought, right?
Right.
It may turn out that the way I saw things going is not the way it's going to go,
Right.
right? So now what I
Mhm.
have done, I have allowed what actually showed up in life. I'm not resisting it. I'm not fighting it. I'm not
Yeah.
telling you, oh, you gotta love me. You gotta stay. You can't fire
Right.
me. God, you can't fire me. No, no, keep me, keep me, keep me. No, right? Because all that does is causes me frustration because
Yeah.
I am in resistance and in denial to what's
Yep.
happening in my life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you have mental wealth, right? And you understand what's going on in your brain and you understand that you can get stuck in an inner sadness about yourself. You understand that
Hmm.
sometimes you get stuck in things emotionally, right? Now you know it's okay, wait a minute. All
Right.
right. So this
Yeah.
person has changed their mind. You know what? They have a right to change their mind. Okay.
That's
It's
right.
not really
Yeah.
what I want. Yes, it's making me sad. I'm gonna always acknowledge my emotions. If I'm gonna
Right.
cry, I'm gonna cry. If that shit hurt, I'll be like, girl, that shit hurt. Right.
Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
acknowledge my emotions, right? But then I'm also gonna say, okay, how is this usable? Right? Oh, I had
Hmm.
a great experience. Oh, you know what? I learned so much on this job, right? It's all usable, but it's all about how you look at the situation. What story are you telling about yourself? What story, what you're telling about how a relationship ended? I have a friend of mine who had been in a relationship for a very long time, and she just knew her and this guy was going to get married, et cetera, et cetera. But he ended up not marrying her and turned around like within a year and married somebody else.
Oh wow.
And she just needed answers. She just said, Sean, I need answers. I need answers. And one day
Right.
I told her, I says, okay, what's the answer you need to hear? Well, I need
Hmm.
to know why he need to tell me X, why he need to tell me this. I said, okay, tell me what you would like for him to tell you, and that would make you be able to move forward with your life. And so she kind of said some stuff, and I said, okay,
Hmm.
he just told you.
Okay.
He just told you, right?
Right.
Now you just wrote that in and put a period on it and keep moving, right?
Right.
Because if you stay stuck waiting for him to tell you what you need to hear to move forward, who
Mhm.
holds the power over your life?
He does. Right.
And he's moved on. So now you've just allowed somebody that no longer cares about you, or at least don't care about you in the way you want, to
Right.
have the power over your life. A
Hmm.
lot of us, and I used to say, especially females, but that's not true. Men too.
Yeah.
I rock for my fellas now. My fellas, some of my biggest supporters are men, and so men and women, we look. You feel too. We all
Yeah.
feel, right?
Right.
We all feel, and so, but sometimes you just got to write your own story. If somebody don't give you an explanation, or an explanation that's good enough for you, fine,
Right.
write your own story because you're writing it anyway. Even in
That's
a
right.
great relationship, you're writing your view of the relationship being great, right? Now, it could be great because what you're getting in that relationship may very well align with your wants, which is, I think, the
Right.
type of relationship any of us should ever be in, right? If
Hmm.
you're having a fight for your wants, then you might have chosen the wrong person, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're still writing your story. You're still saying that, oh, this person running my bathwater makes me happy. You're the one saying
Right. That's right.
you're the one saying that. Another person can come run your bathwater. You'd be like, what are you doing?
Right. Like, it's not the same.
It's not the same. So you're writing your own story. You're also writing, as much as your brain is also writing your heartbreak. Now, that's not to say that you're not having that experience, but your
Hmm.
brain is actually writing as a heartbreak. So it can also write it as a breakthrough, as an opportunity, as a new opportunity to have a new experience.
Yeah.
It can write it however you direct it. But if you don't direct it, it's going to have you on a cycle. It's going to have you on a pattern.
So where can people go right now to get started on their journey to better brain health and, just a healthier lifestyle? What are some of the products that they can use? What are some of the resources and tools? Can you just share some of those things with our audience?
Yes, ma'am. Of course. You can definitely go over to my website, ShonSpeaks.org. And when you get over there, you're going to have an immediate pop up to brain directed supplements. Click on that. It's going to take you over to Brain MD. That is Dr. Daniel Amen's site, where he is a psychiatrist that has written a bazillion books, bestseller books. So you can get different books, different classes. If you've suffered grief, or anybody that's passed and you find yourself sort of stuck in your grief, we have grief classes. If you are having, emotional issues, stuck in depression or anxiety, etc., we have different supplements that you can take, natural supplements that you can take. And one of the things that I always tell people, the best thing to start off with is to start off with your brain health test. Find out what brain type you are, right? Start there. Not everybody can, necessarily afford or schedule a actual scan, what we call a SPECT scan of your brain, but you don't have to. If you start off with the brain health test, kind of find out what your brain health, what parts of your brain that may be overactive or underactive. I'll give an example for myself. I always use, like, I'm my own guinea pig of my life, right? And so one of the things that I found out when I did my brain scans was that I found out that I have a very overactive anterior cingulate gyrus, which that basically means that I don't know how to change gear shift out of emotions, which is so aligned with my life, right?
Yeah.
I have an overactive thalamus, which basically means I get stuck in an inner sadness. I'm quick to beat myself up, right? And basal ganglia, I have high basal ganglia, which means basically I have anxiety. Now, I don't have like extreme anxiety as some people, but I do have some anxiety. And so to be able to name those things, right? Just taking the brain health test will give you the ability to name it. And remember, when you can name it, when you know you can name it, that's
Yeah.
power in that, right? Because when you know that you can name it, now you have a sense of control over it. Right. Have a sense of control over that. And so I always say, start off with the brain health test. And then that way, Sir Dr. Daniel Amos and his host of neuroscientists that created the product will give you some initial recommendations. And then brain health coaching, right? Having healthy conversations to guide you through kind of what's got you stuck, even recognizing that you are stuck. I would say for me, I didn't even know that I was stuck, right? Because when you're making moves and you feel like you're making a little money and, you kind of think you're making progress, but it ain't really progress, right? Now when sometimes you go, you can't get up and get out the bed some days, right? And so, yeah, but just go over there and start there. Connect with me. I want to get you started on that journey.
Yes, yes. So we actually do have Coach Sean's Calendly has been going on the ticker below. So if you want to schedule that brain health test, definitely connect with her there. And then also her website is there as well, as she said, the ShonSpeaks.org as well at the bottom there. So definitely check her out. I'm telling y'all, this is, man, look, I don't even want to stop this interview, okay? But I got one more question for you before we close up today. So, is there any words of wisdom, any special messages that you want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I would definitely, if you're right now, because this is Mental Monday, right? And it's always the start of the week, and the start of the week is always kind of tough, right? Because I got that whole week ahead. No, you only got this moment ahead, right? And you got the whole week ahead to create it the way that you want to create it. One thing that I would say that you could start to do on a daily basis is something that I've started doing, and I think it's been very helpful. Is at the end of the day, just kind of do a list of everything that happened that day with no judgment. Absolutely no judgment about it, right? Whether the phone rung off the hook, yep, the phone rung off the hook, or the phone didn't ring at all, or John called, or Sally called, or went running, went walking, whatever it is, just list it out with no judgment. And then after you finish listing out your day, just say, okay, there was one thing in this day that I would have wanted to be different. Take a couple of minutes and just sort of either visualize it if you're a visual person, or write it out if you're a writing person, or record it, and just say, okay, you know what? If this day could have been exactly the way I wanted it to be, you know, Tiffany would have sent me an email that said hello, right? And then just write that. Tiffany would have sent me an email that said hello, right? And let that be it. And do that, just do that every day. And take that one after whatever happens that day, list it out. At the end, take a minute and say, what would I have wanted to be different? Or what would I, even if you didn't want anything to be different, what would you have wanted to be in addition to? And then write that out. You'll be very shocked that by doing that exercise, that you are now creating your next days, right? Without force. You're not forcing it, because the moment I said, "Oh, you know, it'd been nice if Tiffany would have sent me an email and said hello." Well, guess what I just did? I've already created that for myself. That
Right.
Tiffany sent me an email that said hello, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, more than likely, I'm not telling you that's going to happen, but 7 days later, 8 days later, a week later, Tiffany or John or somebody may send you an email, say, I just wanted to say hello, and then you
Right.
can be like, say, "Oh, I remember I thought that. Oh my goodness. I'm such a creative being. I'm such a power." Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Coach Sean. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This has just been an amazing conversation. I know normally we keep our mental Mondays at about 30 minutes, but hey, you know what? We went a little longer today because this has just been amazing. So, everyone out there, get this checked out. Because just like Sean said, she didn't even know that she had stuff going on until she actually sat and took the test. So connect with Coach Sean, get the test done. Everybody, look, have an amazing Monday. It is sometimes the toughest day of the week, but that's only if you think it's the toughest day of the week. So have an amazing week. We will see you on the flip side. Take care, everybody.
Happy
Bye bye.
Monday.
Happy Monday.